Humility can be a double-edged sword for most of us. It can be hard sometimes to practice genuine humility because pride is tricky, and many times latches and burrows itself onto even the most unassuming of people, slowly expanding like a tick until it's found and removed, or has finished feasting and potentially left behind other problems for the host. Many times, pride is someone's downfall. It can cause a person not to listen to sound wisdom, or even give out bad advice. But one of the greatest problems with pride can be someone's own perception of themselves in regards to their place in society, whether that be at their place of work, within their family, or even in organized community settings like church committees, school boards, or as an elected official. After all, this was Satan's downfall. His pride was so strong that his desire to be like on even higher standing than Yahweh caused him to revolt against Adonai and be cast down from heaven. Pride was also prevalent within the hierarchy of the Jewish priests, causing Yeshua to chastise them publicly on multiple occasions for their lack of humility and desire to be recognized. In Luke 11 verse 43 Jesus states, "What sorrow awaits you, Pharisees! For you love to sit in the seats of honor in the synagogues and receive respectful greetings as you walk in the marketplaces." If pride was Satan's downfall and the high priests of God's chosen people, then how do we avoid the calamities that await all of us when we allow pride to affect our decisions, actions, and outlook towards others? Jesus does address the sin of pride many times throughout his teachings, but one that truly helps visualize the difference between a prideful and humble person is in Luke chapter 14, verses 8 through 11. When attending a meal where he sees many of those present at the dinner trying to be seated in the limited seats of honor, Jesus tells them the following. When you are invited to a wedding feast, don't sit in the seat of honor. What if someone who is more distinguished than you has also been invited? The host will come and say, "Give this person your seat." Then you will be embarrassed, and you will have to take whatever seat is left at the foot of the table. Instead, take the lowest place at the foot of the table. Then when your host sees you, he will come and say, "Friend, we have a better place for you." Then you will be honored in front of all the other guests. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. It was not a coincidence that Jesus used a wedding as the setting for his example of pride versus humility. The wedding of Yeshua and his bride, the church, will be an amazing celebration where all who have been invited shall have a seat at the wedding celebrations table. The seats of honor have already been determined, and the haughty will not be lucky to even find a place at the foot of the table. Just as we are guilty sometimes of thinking too highly of ourselves and what we have accomplished here on earth, many will also think that because of all the wonderful things they did in the name of Yahweh here on earth, they will be celebrated equally as much in heaven. Apostles, Paul and Peter, echo this advice from Yeshua while addressing the young church of Christ followers. In Romans chapter 12 verse 3, Paul writes, "For by the grace given me I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you." And Peter writes in 1 Peter, chapter 5, verse 5. In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud but shows favor to the humble. We are all sinners, and unworthy of invitation to the table of the great wedding feast through our own lives and actions. It is only by the grace of God, and through the salvation of Yeshua's sacrifice on the cross, that we have been given an opportunity to find a seat at the foot of the table. But no matter where you sit, whether it be at the foot of the table or closer to the front, there will be no denying the joyous celebration to take place, and every seat will feel like a seat of honor when you realize we are all the bride at the wedding, and our groom is unconditionally in love with each and every one of us.